Welcome into On the Rise here on WRMN AM 1410. I am your host, Mike Napolitano. Alongside me is my co-host, Derek Geyer.
What up, everyone?
Yeah, coming to you on another Saturday morning. We'll be here for 2 hours today, breaking down a lot of minor league sports, which at this time in the season includes some major league sports as well. But first, we have a couple of notes that we have to get to, a couple of sad notes this past week. We had two unfortunate passing away, two legends passing away in the sports world. The first one, Pete Rose. Now, say what you will, a little controversial, but he is a former All-Star and practically, I believe, the NL hits leader, right?
Yeah, with over 4,000 hits. He's, I believe a 17-time All-Star, played in the, era where he was basically one of the mainstays on, the All-Star team. Made his debut back in, I believe it was 64, somewhere around there. And Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, that was what he was known for. We'll get a little bit of sound there with Pete Rose. So, go ahead and play that, Nick.
Baseball legend Pete Rose died of natural causes. That's according to reports about the medical examiner's findings. Rose died at his home in Las Vegas on September 30th. The Clark County coroner reportedly said his death was caused by cardiovascular disease and hypertension.
The Rose, by any other name, is still a thorn in the side.
Rose played in the major leagues from 1963 until 1986, most notably for the Cincinnati Reds, his hometown team. He still holds the league record for most hits by a player. In an interview months before his death with Cincinnati's WKRC, he reflected on his career.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate in my career as a player to have a lot of moments. 3,000 hits, 4,000 hits, 41-92. All the All-Star games I played in and the World Series that I played in, and all the ovations that I've received over the years. It was a storybook career, no question about it.
But Rose was not inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. He was banned from the game in 1989 after it was revealed he bet on games while serving as the Reds manager. Pete Rose was 83 years old.
That was courtesy of Inside Edition's YouTube page.
Now, with Pete Rose, he did have 4,256 hits, so 4,256 hits, which he got back in he retired as a player in 1986. He also played, leads the league in games played with 3,562. He also has over 14,000 ABs, at-bats. Also holds the current lead for most singles of a player with 3,215. And surprisingly, I found this stat surprising, he also has the most outs of any player that ever played the game with 10,328. Now, you heard that where he was basically, he bet on sports, and he has never been allowed to go into the Hall of Fame because there was an Article 21 that all of the major league players sign at the beginning of every year, which I did not know that until I came across a little bump from AJ Pierzynski. But it's one of those deals where now that Major League Baseball is involved with betting, how far do we keep it? Do we keep them out? The collective we, by Major League Baseball keeping them out of the hall, where now all of a sudden times have changed, things have changed.
Yeah, it's funny that he broke Ty Cobb's record of 4,191 hits because I think both men are shrouded in this light of criticism. Yeah. And every time their name's brought up, it's this shadow that follows them around, basically. And for Ty Cobb, it was numerous reasons. You could argue maybe it was the times, but still was not the nicest of gentlemen. Pete Rose, I hear from stories that maybe he was a little bit nicer, but at the end of the day, like you said, you bet on your own sport. And those are the consequences. Article 21, as you mentioned, and we're going to have some audio from AJ Pierzynski, I believe, in just a moment. But he'll break it down a little bit better. You talk about sports betting and it becoming such a prevalent thing, and there was just an incident in the NHL where Pinto from the Ottawa Senators was suspended for I don't forget the amount of games, but pretty much the whole start of the season. It might have been, I want to say 19 game suspension, but you bet on your own sport. Now, I could see where some players say, hey, if I'm an MLB player, can I bet on the NFL? It's not like that's still a gray area for me because a lot of these players today have friends in other leagues.
Yeah.
So you might still have insider information. You might still be able to know what's going on in those locker rooms and be up to date. But especially your own sport, no, you can't. And I know in the AJ podcast, it was Foul Territory, is AJ Przinsky's podcast. He went into talking about the comparison between Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yep.
And the Black Sox and Pete Rose. And if Shoeless Joe Jackson's not in the Hall of Fame, then Pete Rose definitely shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
You sign Article 21. When you go into every spring training, there is Article 21 on every wall. You do not bet on baseball. You do not bet on baseball. It is a lifetime ban. If you bet on your team, it is a 1-year ban if you bet on the sport in general. Like, you have to sign it. They say it in English, Spanish. They'll get it in any language that you want to hear it, okay? To me, he knew what he was doing. He just didn't think he'd get caught. He's like, I'm Pete Rose. I'll do whatever I want. Now, if we want to play this back, Shoeless Joe Jackson, Black Sox. His numbers say he should be in the Hall of Fame. Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? He got a lifetime ban. He died 100 years ago. Why don't we let him get in?
We should.
Oh, but we're not.
He's
So
got
what's
my vote.
different about Pete Rose? And Joe Jackson, there's less evidence on him than there is on Pete Rose. People say he didn't bet on him. He hit like 400 in that World Series, played great, right? Other guys admitted, yeah, we threw it, but he was like, I didn't have anything to do with it. But they still banned him for life. Why is he not in, right? So to me, it sucks. It's one of those black marks on the game, but also Pete did it to himself. And, R.I.P. Pete, you're funny as hell. But to me, he doesn't deserve it because he knew what he was doing.
And that was AJ Przinsky, courtesy of Foul Territory.
Yeah, so AJ goes ahead and kind of breaks it down. Like I said, I had absolutely no idea that there was the Article 21 where they signed that you can't bet on your own sport, especially when Pete Rose was a player manager at the time, and he was betting on games where he was playing in, he was managing. So with that being said, I mean that's a double whammy, if you will. And I mean, despite the fact that he was, by the time he was playing in 1965, he was an all-star, and he had 17 seasons of being an all-star.
Yeah.
He won 3 World Series with the Big Red Machine and also in Philly. So the Big Red Machine being the Cincinnati Reds. And it's unfortunate, but I kind of feel the same way that AJ does, where you're only sad that you got caught.
Yeah. How about AJ Przinsky, though? I don't think that man has ever had a bad take. Say what you will about whether or not he was a controversial player in his own right. I think not in the same aspects as Pete Rose and Ty Cobb, but he was a smart baseball player and sometimes stretched the rules. I know White Sox fans are very familiar. He is regarded as a legend for such actions, but I know a lot of people
2005.
A lot of people outside of, well, even after that, but even there's a lot of people in baseball outside of the White Sox that, I don't know, maybe can't stand him, or maybe don't appreciate his interpretations of the rules, and instead they feel that he was, I don't want to use the word cheater, but I think
Was he though?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think he was just a savvy baseball player, and he was clutch. That's a huge thing too in my book. And he was just he was a great player that now can take his mind of the game and all of his knowledge and use it on broadcasts. And I know he doesn't do that as much anymore, but use it on podcasts. And I think a lot of White Sox fans are hoping eventually use it in the dugout, but I don't know if we will ever see that day, but I digress.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be happening. But also some other sad news this week. Hall of Famer Dikembe Mutombo also passed away this week on September 30th.
Every block.
No, go ahead.
Every blocked shot by Dikembe Mutombo
Mutombo knocks him down his throat.
Would be punctuated with a simple wag of his finger.
Mutombo terminates it.
The man dubbed the King of Africa will be remembered not only as an NBA defensive legend, but also a humanitarian hero.
What I'm doing is just setting an example, not just for the African, and also for anybody that playing sport or go out becoming successful. That I feel that we do have an obligation to give something back in the place that we came from.
In 1987, as a 21-year-old, Mutombo moved from what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo to the United States and played at Georgetown for Hall of Fame head coach John Thompson. The 7'2" Mutombo stifled offenses, led the nation in blocks as a sophomore, and earned at least a share of 2 Big East Defensive Player of the Year awards.
With the 4th pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the Denver Nuggets select Dikembe Mutombo from Georgetown University.
And that's when his finger wag first appeared. Mutombo's signature moment came in the first round of the 1994 Western Conference playoffs. Facing the Seattle Supersonics, who owned the league's best record, in the deciding game, Mutombo pulled down 15 rebounds and added 8 blocks in an overtime victory.
Embraces the ball and the unlikely upset, one of the great upsets of NBA playoff history.
Over the next 7 seasons, he earned a quartet of Defensive Player of the Year awards and led the league in total rebounds and blocks 4 times. Following his retirement in 2009, Mutombo joined the 2015 Basketball Hall of Fame class. But his greatness, it wasn't limited to just the score sheet. In 2009, he opened a $29 million hospital in his country's capital city of Kinshasa, where 7.5 million people live in poverty. Mutombo became one of the leaders for NBA Africa, a grassroots program designed for player development and infrastructure on the continent.
People in Congo was able to see the brand new hospital, the brand new school that was built for the kids because of the game of basketball. Sport didn't just give me a gift of talent to block shot. It allowed me to connect to the rest of the world and to go and make a difference. And that's what we are doing.
That was courtesy of ESPN's YouTube page.
Now, Dikembe Mutombo, he announced, unfortunately, that back on October 15th of 2022 that he was suffering from a brain tumor, and which is what ultimately caused his departure from this mortal coil. He played 18 seasons in the NBA, nicknamed Mount Mutombo for his defensive efforts. I mean, the dude was 7'2".
Yeah.
And back in that day, if you had, those were the days of the Giants roaming the paint, blocking the shots, doing all of that, all of the fun stuff. So when he was drafted in 1991 by the Denver Nuggets, it was the 4th pick in that draft.
Yeah.
He held various titles. I believe it was, I know that he played for a various number of teams. The 76ers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Nuggets, obviously, but he was named 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. He also got the Ben Wallace and Rudy Gobert awards when he did lead the. I'm sorry, I'm probably misspeaking on those awards, unfortunately.
No, that sounds right.
Okay, thank you.
Rudy Gobert.
Appreciate that. But yeah, he led the league in defensive block shot 3 times, led the league in rebounds twice, 8 all-star teams. And the most astounding thing for me is that when he did retire in 2009, that he took up the mantle of going back to his native country of the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, to take up humanitarian efforts, which to me is absolutely amazing, because he wanted to give back to where he came from because it was so poverty stricken.
Yeah, and you heard in that clip, I mean, he was even talking about, going to children's hospitals and stuff. So, I mean, he was definitely a humanitarian and a great guy. And, of course, the thing I think most people that maybe hadn't seen him play remember him for, other than, of course, if you haven't seen him on the court, you remember him for that hilarious Geico commercial where he blocked everything in the commercial. This, despite the announcement of the brain tumor, and 58 years old, way too young, and
definitely
of the two passings that happened on, that was Monday, September 30th. Of the two, Pete Rose was 83, Mutombo 58. This one was the more surprising of the two. Despite all the brain tumor news, it's just or hard hitting, if you want to use that term instead, because it was just it was a little bit of a gut punch to see a guy like that pass away so soon. Yeah,
and to really say that how Mutombo was looked upon in the NBA, especially with the Denver Nuggets and the Atlanta Hawks, they both retired his number. That doesn't happen if you're not a great player for both of those organizations and well liked by each of them. Yeah. Oh, that one stat that you had it in the notes here was NBA Defensive Player of the Year award. He had that 4 times. He was tied with Ben Wallace and Rudy Gobert. So that's not the names of the award there, because I was going to say those are some current players. At least Rudy Gobert is. So yeah. So going back to his Hall of Fame career stats, he ranked 18th in the NCAA in block shots as a freshman. Going back to 1988 to 1989. He was the number 4 overall pick by Denver in 91, made the second team All-Star team as a rookie, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time All-Star, 3-time NBA honors, 6-time All-Defensive Selection, 3 first team, and currently ranked 20th all-time in total rebounds with over 12,000. Sits second all-time in total blocks with 3,289, and ranks 48th in games played in NBA history with 1,196. So the NBA and NBA fans will definitely miss Dikembe. All right, we've got some Blackhawks news that we're going to jump into on this show. As you know, we've said that we're going to be covering Icehogs. Well, right now, they're still kind of the same thing. So we have our first cuts of this training camp and of this season. That was as of 9/24. We have 49 players then in the roster. So that meant cuts of forwards Martin Misiak. He went back to the Erie Otters of the OHL. Alex Ferrand was sent back to the Sudbury Wolves. Merrick Vanacker, of course, just drafted this year, heads back to the Brantford Bulldogs. In the defenseman category, that was Ty Henry. He'll be joining Misiak at the Erie Otters program. Then the second set of cuts was on 9/28. That got the Blackhawks roster down to 41 players. That was defenseman DJ King. He was released from his PTO. If you're not familiar, PTO is a paid player tryout, and then he was assigned to Rockford. Then Austin Strand was also released from a PTO and assigned to Rockford. Goaltender Ben Goudreau, no relation to Johnny or Matthew. He was released from an ATO, that is an amateur tryout, and then assigned to Rockford. And then forwards Gavin Hayes, Paul Ludwinski, Jalen Lipin, Marcel. Yes, that is his name. The exact same name, Marcel. And so those, they were all assigned to Rockford. Nick Lardis was the final forward in that grouping that was sent to Brantford of the OHL. So he'll be joining Merrick Vanacker with the Bulldogs. And then the Blackhawks had a game a Saturday night in Enterprise Center against the St. Louis Blues. Unfortunately, that was a 3-2 loss in overtime. Kurashev and Maroon opened the scoring in the first for the Blackhawks. Taylor Hall had an assist on both goals. He also had an A on his sweater. Kurashev had the other assist on the Maroon tally. But in the second period, former Oiler, who was off-sheeted, Dylan Holloway scores with assists from both Joseph brothers. That's Matthew and Pierre Oliver. And Alexei Toropchenko scores the game-tying goal with an assist from former Blackhawk Nick Leddy, who also assists Dylan Holloway in OT. That would be Nick Leddy once again, and the Blues take this game 3-2.
And that's really the only game I'm going to break down because it gets worse from here, folks. I know it's only preseason. We shouldn't worry, right? But I'm a little bit nervous here.
Okay, why don't we put a pin in that for a second there, Mike? Yeah.
I jumped the gun a little bit there, got right into the segment, but it was a good time for us to get the Hawks music in there. I don't know if they deserve for us to play that right now with how they've been playing themselves. However, the next set of cuts is really going to solidify who the NHL team is, who this Blackhawks team is. So the third set of cuts were on last Sunday, 9/29. That got the roster down to 35 players. You had Colton Dock, Cole Gutman, Ryder Rolston, Samuel Savoie, and Landon Slaggert were the 5 forwards assigned to Rockford in that set of cuts. You had defenseman Ethan Del Mastro also sent down to Rockford. So now you're starting to see the majority of the cuts are players that will be sent down to the AHL rather than their respective junior teams or other leagues, because these are players that are just on the cusp of making the NHL, need a little bit more development. They're going to get that in the AHL. This gives the Blackhawks an opportunity to bring them up throughout the season. We have seen some of these players already make their NHL debut, such as Landon Slaggert and Ethan Del Mastro. We saw them towards the end of last year. They got a taste, but they still need that AHL time to develop. The fourth set of cuts was as of Monday. That brought the roster down to 32 players. That was Zach Sanford, Brent Seeney, both sent to Rockford, and goaltender Mitchell Weeks released from a PTO and assigned to Rockford as well. That was ahead of Tuesday night's game at XL Energy Center. That was a 7-2 loss to the Minnesota Wild.
And really the only bright spot is this.
And Gustafson with a pad save, rebound, hit the post. Bedard scores just before the horn.
This is going to be close. They're going to have to look at this one. Yeah, there's a puck that gets past Gustafson and it hits the short side post. Brodin goes to clear it. It's Bedard that finishes it.
Here's the clock. I thought they beat the clock, but let's see.
Yeah, look at that. 4/10.
So Bedard with the goal.
And that highlight was courtesy of Bally's.
So Bedard gets his first of the preseason, but it's meaningless as the Hawks fall. And we have more Blackhawks news for you here.
Yeah, but before we continue, Mike, I mean, realistically, this is all meaningless. I mean, this is all preseason. So I know you're, the puckhead here, and I understand that this can be a little deflating, but it is the preseason. Try not to freak out too much.
And
if you're listening, or I'm sorry, watching on WRMN1410.com via the live stream on YouTube, you could kind of see Mike's reaction to what I'm talking about. He has kind of a grim disposition going right now.
I'm nervous.
Why are you nervous? Come on, let's talk about
6 preseason games on the schedule.
Yes.
The last one being tonight, and we're going to get to that, and we'll preview that. But you've played 5, you lost 5, and some in blowout fashion. So I'm going to get more into this in our next segment right here, but I'm worried about this Blackhawks team moving forward. However, for our show, Rockford Icehogs is going to be great.
And you are listening to On the Rise on AM 1410 WRMN. We'll be right back.
Over time, you want to work less of it, so you need your crop protection to work more of it. When you add Taparan or Last Chance Pro adjuvants from CHS, they will. Designed for maximum efficacy, Last Chance Pro improves the uptake and translocation of herbicides, while Tapran helps activate herbicides for better performance against tough-to-control weeds. Ask your local CHS retailer how Tapran and Last Chance Pro adjuvants can put your crop protection to work.
Looking to stay informed on the political issues that truly matter? I'm Dennis Sonar Green, inviting you to join me every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. on WRMN for A Political Talk Show. WRMN, the talk of the town, is where you'll find clear, balanced analysis of the day's biggest news. We dig into the headlines, cutting through the noise to deliver the facts and insights you need to stay informed. Whether you're deeply into politics or just want to understand what's going on, this show offers the depth and perspectives that matter. Tune in every weekday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on WRMN and be part of the conversation that's shaping our community. Let's navigate today's political landscape together on A Political Talk Show, only on WRMN, the talk of the town.
Thanks for listening to WRMN 1410. Don't forget to join us every day for our Comfort Keepers feature. Comfort Keepers is a leading provider of in-home non-medical care for seniors and other adults in need of assistance with daily activities. Again, listen daily at 7:25 a.m. for our Comfort Keepers feature. And thanks for listening.
Go out for Chinese tonight at the China House, 1900 Sycamore Road in DeKalb. Enjoy a platter for two, which includes Shanghai shrimp rolls, beef teriyaki, crab rangoon, spare ribs, as well as chicken wings and shrimp. The China House also offers all Chinese favorites, as well as sushi and hibachi, plus American food and ice cream. Try seafood, beef, chicken, sushi, and more from their most popular buffet items. Let China House tempt your taste buds. Call 815-748-0032.
B-Lux Bar and Grill Wisconsin Dells is the quintessential American grill and bar, with refined rustic cuisine and award-winning libations. Their honest, feel-good food menu is complemented by a beer list to satisfy every taste. Classic cocktails and our signature shakes, rich and creamy with a splash of boozy goodness just to shake things up a little bit. B-Lux Grill and Bar, classic American cuisine with a contemporary twist.
El Diablo Cantina, located by Spring Hill Mall at 113 Southwestern in Carpentersville, is your fun, hip, and festive family Mexican cantina, serving authentic recipes from all over Mexico that are made fresh daily. There's delicious cocktails using fresh fruits or your choice of 30 craft beers, which go great with the menu. There's indoor and outdoor dining, open from 4 till 11 and until 4 a.m. on weekends, featuring Latin line dancing. Visit eldiablocantina.com today.
Hide out with friends at Galati's Hideaway in Cary. It's the perfect place for lunch, dinner, and specialty drinks. Check out their sports bar for the best spot to watch games. Try Galati's Dining Room for a relaxing night of dining on their signature Italian dishes. Try their great pizza or the build-your-own burger. Galati's Hideaway also has a large variety of entree favorites like prime filet, steak kebabs, salmon, and ribs. Book your party in their banquet room. Visit Galati'sHideaway.com.
You're listening to On the Rise with Mike Napolitano and Derek Geyer on 1410 AM WRMN.
And welcome back to On the Rise. I am your host, Derek Geyer, alongside Mike Napolitano. You are listening to AM 1410 WRMN. And for those of you that might actually want us live and in studio, tune in to WRMN1410.com on
YouTube.
Thank you. Holy hell, I can't believe I just had that colossal brain fart.
Wake up, Derek.
Yeah, this is the type of stuff, this is the type of shiatsu that you'll be getting on air and on Facebook and YouTube Live. Mike.
Did you have your Wheaties this morning?
No, unfortunately not. I think I might need to get something a little bit more powerful than even coffee.
Okay, all right. At least the coffee is there.
Geez, holy hell.
Because I don't think the coffee is flowing in the Blackhawks locker room. That's for sure.
Nicely done.
Thanks. I like that. Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was good.
Fifth round of cuts was as of, after that Tuesday night loss. So that was Wednesday, the 2nd. That brought the...
that was a brutal game.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not going into that. A 7-2 loss to a Minnesota Wild team. All right. You were asking me, or you were telling me, don't be so worried. This is preseason. What worries me is, okay, you're the Blackhawks. You haven't gotten a win. That's one thing. The last 2 losses have been absolute blowouts to a Minnesota Wild team. Now, I know they tend to make the playoffs every year and can be a competitive, tough team. And both of these teams at this point in the preseason are icing their NHL team or close to it.
Okay.
And this is look at how many cuts the Blackhawks have had. This is basically what you're going to see on the ice for the 2024-25 Chicago Blackhawks. I don't like it. I don't like it right now. Where are the goals coming from? This team has yet to score more than 2 goals in a game. Bedard has 1 goal. He can't do it all, and right now he's not doing it all.
No, because I mean, isn't he the sole focus right now for the defenders on the opposite teams?
It should be, yeah. And of course, he's still young. We saw what he was able to do last year,
Sure.
and being an 18-year-old, stepping into the league, being first overall pick, being what they're saying is going to be a generational talent. And I have no doubt that he's going to get there. I have more confidence in him than any other athlete in this town right now. In fact, any other up-and-coming rookie, even probably in the sport. I mean, Macklin Celebrini, say what you will, but I don't think anybody was quite in the lottery race for any other recent NHL first overall pick than most teams were for Bedard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong. He will still become this great player. But I don't know, man. This is not a good start to the preseason. And going into the regular season as of Tuesday, they'll be playing the Utah Hockey Club, the formerly known Arizona Coyotes. New ownership moved to a new location. The new ownership and the new location are going to embrace this team a lot better.
Well, I sure as hell hope so, because they did not do that franchise any favors back in Phoenix.
No. And so this is still going to be that bubble team of a the roster didn't change. It's still going to be a...
To put this in perspective, that the Elgin area can actually probably grasp is the fact that the Phoenix Coyotes are to what the Chicago White Sox are currently.
Kinda,
Safe to say?
Yeah, really bad ownership, and
but now they have new ownership, so there's hope.
I would say the Coyotes, the Arizona Coyotes, actually had more promise and more upside. They actually were building towards something, and you're going to see that now that they're in Utah. There is talent there. Unlike maybe this White Sox team that sets records for having the most losses in a season. Just saying. I don't even think we were on the air, because we were on the air last Saturday, and then the statement from Jerry Reinsdorf came out Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, let's not depress our listening audience any more than what they probably might.
Yeah,
I mean,
I will rant more than I have already kind of ranted about this Blackhawks team. And for that Jerry Reinsdorf apology letter, give me like 7 hours.
Yeah. Well,
I'll break down every word. I'll break down every syllable.
Let's keep this to the Blackhawks.
Yes.
And the Rockford Icehogs. But considering that this is the second, third, fourth year of the rebuild for the Blackhawks, because they were banking everything on getting Connor Bedard. They got Bedard. Now they're going forward with his second season as a pro for the Hawks. And there's more positivity to be coming along for the Hawks.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, and this is why we cover the Rockford Icehogs, because a lot of that positivity that will be coming up to the Hawks eventually are on the Rockford Icehogs.
Yes. No, you're right. And as we move on, as I mentioned, that's next round of cuts got the team down to 28 players. That was Frank Nazar that was sent to Rockford, saw his debut last year, and he will be, of course, starting in Rockford this year. I think many people thought that was going to be the case, although there was a second-line center position that was on the table possibly for him. AJ Spellici was sent back to the Windsor Spitfires of the OHL. I mentioned last week that he is a former football player, not professionally, but coming up he played both football and hockey, so he's a little bit of a bigger build. I think I compared him, but loosely, very loosely, to Dustin Byfuglien. So interested to see his physicality for this Blackhawks team going forward, because you have a lot of small talent speed guys, and that is the direction that the league is going in. However, it'll be good to have some size. Speaking of size, defenseman Louis Crevier was also assigned to Rockford, along with Kevin Korchinski. Saw a lot of miscues from Kevin Korchinski in these preseason games, and look, that first game against the Wild, 7-2, that was Drew Comesso in net, and maybe Comesso needs a little bit more time to develop as a goaltender, and you could pin some of it on him and also these defensive miscues. But last night, against the Wild again, that was Peter Mrazek in net. He was your starter last year. He's expected to be your kind of 1A, 1B with Laurent Brossoit this year. Brossoit injured. So you're probably going to see a lot more of Mrazek for the start of the season. And this was still a 6-1 loss last night for the Blackhawks. I mean, this is bad, Derek. This is basically your NHL team getting clobbered because they can't score.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're just not ready for preseason. Last year, the talk about this Blackhawks team was coming ready to play, because they would look good in the last 40 minutes, but in that first period, they would dig themselves too much of a hole that they couldn't get out of. And this Blackhawks team seems to be doing that. Again, it almost looks like they're not digging anymore to get out of it.
It's a tough goal. I mean, I was actually looking forward to, I am still actually looking forward to this season for the Blackhawks. I'm really interested to see what the Rockford Icehogs can do. Because a lot of the players that are going to be coming up and hopefully filling spots for the Hawks are going to be on the Icehogs. Yeah. Now, I do have, thank you, Cody, for shouting us out on YouTube Live. I appreciate that.
Those Wheaties.
Yeah, I still need those Wheaties because I still cannot get my stuff straight. But he is shouting out former Chicago Hitman player Michael Napolitano.
Oh, no. Oh, that I didn't even listen to the name at first. Yeah, that Cody. What's up, Cody?
You have like a little bit of hockey experience, or is that the rollerball?
That's roller. I have both, but that's roller. Don't associate me with the Hitmen, though. Those are... They play the game a little dirty. They're the Pete Roses of roller hockey. Basically.
Oh, we're going there, huh?
The Ty Cobbs of roller hockey. Oh, yeah, to throw it back to that first segment. Yeah,
Damn.
I wanted extra time out there on the rink. I was all I was on the team for. I wanted my ice time.
Sorry, I didn't mean for him to do you dirty like that, Cody.
I love you, Cody. But going into the rest of this week, the Blackhawks are going to have to make at least 5 more cuts to get to the 23-man roster. My speculation is we're probably looking at Nolan Allen, Isaac Phillips, Drew Comesso, Lucas Reichel.
What?
Yeah, Lucas Reichel had a really underperforming, really bad season last year. And this preseason has been his opportunity to show this Blackhawks coaching staff and management that he's going to turn things around, and none of us have seen it. None of us have really seen it, and he's still making a lot of similar mistakes that he was last year, and he got sent down to Rockford, and once again, that was another time when he got sent down to Rockford for an extended period of time that, all right, if you can't cut it at the NHL, show us that you could dominate the AHL, or at least be a consistent contributing player, and he wasn't, and this is worrying me as well. Not to the extent that the entire team is worrying me in this preseason, but just to the point where you have to make a decision on Lucas Reichel. If you send him down again, he gets no trade value, and no other team is going to be looking at him. If other teams are looking at him right now, he already probably doesn't have a whole lot of trade value, but maybe if you leave him up on the NHL roster and another team's not quite paying attention, or they think they can develop him differently, you can get something for him. But is this the right time to trade him? There's a lot of question marks that go into Lucas Reichel falling off a cliff basically right here, and it puts the Blackhawks, I want to say, in a tough position. I mean, it's not the biggest worry on the table right now, but I mean, this is a high draft pick that, of course, he was from the last regime. That was a Stan Bowman pick, but he was supposed to develop into this top 6 player, and we just haven't seen it.
Now, is this a case of maybe, I'm going to draw MLB baseball comparison to Lucas here. Now, is this a potential for Lucas Reichel being a 4A player? Now MLB has the minors leagues, single, double, AAA, and then there's the on-the-cusp players where they get labeled 4A, where they do really well in AAA, but their skills don't translate to the show.
Considering he didn't have a great stint with Rockford, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
But at the same time, to really answer your question, Derek, it's more of we'll see tonight, right? We'll see night by night. It's a case-by-case basis with Lucas Reichel. It's sometimes he's somewhat there, and sometimes he's completely non-existent. You don't see him on the ice at all. And we talked about a couple of players in the last couple of weeks for this Blackhawks team, especially coming up, that if you don't see them out there or you don't hear from them, that can be a good thing, right? That means they're not making mistakes at a young age. With Lucas Reichel, if you're not hearing from him right now, that's not a good thing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's interesting.
And you also have one other name that I find a little bit surprising on there.
Yes, Landon Slaggert, another man who made his debut last season towards the end of the year after the NCAA wrapped up, or at least his team did. Notre Dame graduate. And then so he's going to be probably sent down as well. I don't know if I see him making the opening night roster, but those are my 5. Just taking a quick glance at the lineups, the current roster, the Blackhawks need to get down to a 23-man roster. However, they may not need to make all 5 cuts. I'm not sure what the injury reserve will allow them to do. If they put somebody on long-term IR, they can maybe keep a 24th player up. And just yesterday at 7 p.m., Charlie Roumeliotis tweeted out that the Blackhawks placed Wyatt Kaiser on injured reserve retroactive to September 19th with an illness. So that may allow for the Blackhawks to keep one more player up if he's on long-term IR or any kind of retroactive. To be an illness dating back to September 19th, that doesn't sound good. That's a while to be sick, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Laurent Brossoit, we talked about him. It's his right knee. He had surgery on. He's on injured reserve. And Blackhawks' second overall pick in this last draft, this 2024 draft, Artem Levshunov, he's still out with that right foot. A little tender, but both Levshunov and Brossoit were on the ice as of, I want to say, last Thursday. No, what's today? Saturday. So it might have been Wednesday. I'd have to double check the exact date. But they are on the ice. They are skating. Probably, most likely in non-contact jerseys. Last week, I mentioned that I might be able to get a chance to make it out to one of the training camp days, either Monday or Tuesday. That didn't happen, but hey, this week is a new week. This will be less of training camp and more of preseason practice leading into that first game against the Utah Hockey Club, which is a regular season game. The season will have started this Tuesday,
on the 8th.
October 8th. I believe that's a 7 p.m. game.
Sounds about right.
Yes, and that is on ESPN. I know a lot of people are still having... 9 p.m. on October 8th, this Tuesday, on ESPN and ESPN Plus. It'll be in the Delta Center in Salt Lake City, Utah, under brand new ownership. But like I said, this is still the Arizona Coyotes of last year. It's not. I mean, of course, a couple of off-season moves, but they aren't going to be the Vegas Golden Knights hot and ready out the gates. This is still a team. However, if you remember last year, the Blackhawks lost a game to those Arizona Coyotes 8-1. And it wasn't even like some of the Arizona Coyotes' best players were scoring goals. It was spread out amongst the lineup, and we saw some inconsistencies with this Blackhawks team. Let's hope that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and there were a lot of injuries on last year's Blackhawks team.
That's true.
Which is also one of the things where I was going to ask you about Brossoit. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
So he's a goalie.
Yes.
And last year you had Mrazek and Soderblom in net for the Hawks. to me, as the season went on, Mrazek got strong. Soderblom, not so much.
Yeah, so I think you look to, once Laurent Brossoit is back and completely healthy, I think you look at probably having Brossoit and Mrazek as your 1A, 1B. I don't know if you keep a third goaltender up.
Probably not, because then you're taking away the development from someone.
Yeah, so I think you send Soderblom down, and then you probably have him and Comesso in the AHL with Rockford. So you'll be hearing us say those names a lot more, probably as the injury bug subsides and the regular season starts. The Icehogs preseason also started this past week. That was a Wednesday afternoon game against the Iowa Wild at home in the BMO Center for their annual school day game. That was...
Oh, I'm sorry. That's basically like all you hear for like those afternoon games with the screaming children. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to take you aback by it.
I thought the coffee kicked in a little too much now, but okay, all right, yeah. My bad. That was 4,844 in attendance. I hope they weren't all school kids. I mean, that's a lot of screaming children at that point then, right?
That's a lot of coffee.
Frank Nazar opens the scoring from a beautiful Brent Sini pass with 51 seconds remaining in the first to tie things up at 1. I should say open the scoring for Rockford. Ryder Rolston and Marcel go on a 2-on-1 breakaway and pot the second goal for Rockford, making it 2-1. But Iowa's Matthew Sopp tied things. Rockford ringer Matas Spodniak knocked in a rebound from a point shot from Austin Strand at 5:44 to make it 3-2. Sopp scores his second to tie the game for the Iowa Wild, but then Ethan Del Mastro poked a loose puck sitting on the goal line into the Iowa net, 11:24, and on a power play for the game-deciding goal. Goalie Mitchell Weeks also made 27 saves for the Ice Hogs as well. Nazar has a goal and an assist. Spodniak a goal and an assist as well. And Landon Slaggert had 2 assists. Rockford Ice Hogs finish with the power play stats 1 for 3 on the night, and they held Iowa off on all 3 of their power play opportunities. So the only win of an Ice Hogs or Blackhawks preseason thus far was Wednesday afternoon, because then on Thursday, it was the conclusion of the Ice Hogs preseason. They only played 2 games. That was with the Iowa Wild at 7 p.m. That was actually at Extreme Arena, which is the home of the ECHL's Iowa Heartlanders. So this was a neutral site game, but they are the affiliate of the Iowa Wild. Normally the Iowa Wild play at Wells Fargo Arena. Ice Hogs fell 5-2. Rockford did see goals from Gavin Hayes and Brandon Saigon, but 20-year-old Hunter Height stole the show in this halfway clash, notching the shorthanded goal, a power play goal, and a third goal from range, from the point, practically. So the Ice Hogs fall 5-2. That's not, I mean, it's a hat trick. It's not a Gordie Howe hat trick, but a shorthanded goal, a power play goal, and a long distance goal, that's pretty impressive. So
anytime you could go ahead and score a hat trick, I would say that's a good game.
Yeah.
Despite it not being a Gordie Howe hat trick of the 1 goal, 1 assist, and 1 fight.
Yeah, exactly. Back to the Blackhawks side of things, though. We're kind of jumping back and forth here real quickly. That was last night. The Blackhawks were playing the Wild at 7:30 p.m. in the United Center. As I mentioned, another blowout. The only goal from this Blackhawks team last night came from Seth Jones. Just not a great showing once again. Blackhawks looked slow, sluggish. Wild got off to at least a 2-goal lead at the start. And that brings us to tonight, the final preseason, 6th and final preseason game. That will be against the St. Louis Blues at 7 p.m. This will be a neutral site game as well. The Blackhawks are home, but it won't be at the United Center. This will be held at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, where the Milwaukee Bucks normally play their games. Of course, the Blackhawks had a game here last season in the preseason. That was against the Wild. That one made a little bit more sense because it was not quite a halfway point between the two teams, but you had fan base from each side in the vicinity. This time you have St. Louis coming north to play in this one. I did reach out to a friend of the show, Jenna Rose, who is the in-game host for the Chicago Blackhawks. She also does in-game hosting for the Milwaukee Bucks at the Fiserv Forum. So this was kind of a clash between her two worlds. So I did want to get her take. Hopefully we will get a chance to talk to her later on in the season. Of course, as I mentioned, we're going to be mostly focused on the Icehogs, so I'm not sure as how much input she will have on that front because she mostly sees the NHL team. But we have a number of reasons to get her on. She does AU softball over in Rosemont. That's Athletes Unlimited, and so she is definitely on the move and a very busy person. So we'll have to lock that down a couple weeks in advance. But the Blackhawks, as I mentioned, start their regular season Tuesday. Rockford starts their regular season next Saturday. That is the home opener against the Grand Rapids Griffins. That's the Detroit Red Wings affiliate.
Sucks!
The opening night block party will include live music, t-shirt giveaways, food trucks, fun activities for both the adults and the kids. And this is, just a great matchup as well. It's against the Central Division rival that eliminated the Icehogs in 4 games in a best-of-5 series in the first round of the Calder Cup playoffs last spring. And you're not going to want to miss that one. The Blackhawks, shifting back to them, one final note. They go on the road for 4 games, and then the home opener is not until Thursday, October 17th, against former Chicago Steel player, Chicago Steel alumni Macklin Celebrini. He was the first overall pick in the 2024 NHL draft. And his San Jose Sharks, that game will be at 7:30 p.m. at the United Center. And I know there's been some confusion and issue with streaming of the games. Yeah. ESPN Plus has had a lot of the games blacked out because you are in the TV market for the local broadcasts, but there's not really a local broadcast for some because NBC Sports Chicago is no longer. It is now Chicago Sports Network, and they only have the opportunity for you to watch their channels on Antenna TV and DirecTV. So there's been some issues. Have no fear, though. The Blackhawks' first 11 games are on ESPN Plus streaming, so that should allow you to watch the games. At least opening night is on ESPN nationally broadcast, so hopefully this issue won't come into play right away. But I know Blackhawks fans are eager to see this team. Let's not go back to the dark ages where the Blackhawks weren't televised.
No, you're talking about 5 steps forward, 10 steps back with that one, especially since after, the owner, Rocky Wirtz, passed away, then his son, Rocky Jr., decided to put them on air, which really led to the explosion of the fan base for the Chicago Blackhawks. But at the bottom of the hour, we will be getting into fantasy sports with our fantasy sports correspondent, Nick Johnston.
We've also got some more hockey news for you. We got a couple Steel and Wolves notes, as well as some Windy City Bulls, which, just like the Blackhawks, kind of has to do with the pro team, the Chicago Bulls. All that and more right here. It's my co-host, Derek Geyer, myself, Mike Napolitano. This is On the Rise on WRMN AM 1410.
Do you own an annuity, either fixed rate, indexed, or variable? Are you paying high fees and getting low returns? If so, Annuity General would like you to have this free book to learn the pitfalls and mistakes of buying an annuity. The Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers contains the little-known truths about annuities, like how to help reduce your fees and increase retirement income. And it's free. That's right, free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report just for calling. We researched over 1,000 annuities and summarized rates and benefits from financially strong insurers. You get Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and the Annuity Rate Report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. That's 800-760-1845.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 9 o'clock.
Welcome back to AM 1410 WRMN. You're listening to On the Rise with your host, Derek Geyer and Mike Napolitano, getting back into the hockey talk with the Steel and Wolves.
Yeah, so we left off Friday, it was Saturday, but there was that Friday night win against the Muskegon Lumberjacks, which was a 3-2 shootout victory. There was also the Steel home opener and the another win for this Steel team. Saturday evening, they followed that up with a home victory against the Youngstown Phantoms. That was 2 goals from Colin Sisson and 1 from Owen Tylick. Youngtown's Michael Messick scored 31 seconds into the game after a nice 2-on-1 setup from Adam Benak, but it was the Steel that came out with the win. Goaltender Luca Cloutier was a force in the crease, stopping 27 of 29, and the Steel come away after that last weekend 3-1-0, 2-0-0-0 in the conference, as I said.
O'Reilly.
All right. We're not giving free ads here.
Auto parts.
They haven't had an away game, so no record for the away. They are 1-1-0-0 at the neutral site games. So, of course, they started off the season with that Dick's Sporting Goods USHL Fall Classic in Pennsylvania. And then last night against the Dubuque Fighting Saints was the 5-2 loss. That was the first home loss for this Steel team. Unfortunately, that was also a loss in the conference. So now they are 2-1-0-0 in the conference. But a great start to the season for this Steel team, I'd have to say.
Yeah, considering the fact that when they started their preseason, it seemed like they were getting hit over the head by every team that they were playing. So it's nice to see that they are actually rounding into shape and form for this season.
Maybe the Blackhawks will take that same path, maybe.
You sound like you're hope trafficking a little bit.
I'm worried.
You're worried and you're scared?
Yeah, for this Blackhawks team. But not for this Steel team, as tonight is another matchup. Tonight is Pucks and Pups, presented by Pet Suites. That's at 6:05 p.m. against the Muskegon Lumberjacks at Fox Valley Ice Arena. And then there is no game next Friday, so this will be the only game of the week before we come to you with another show. That's the holiday weekend next weekend, so instead the Steel will play Saturday and Sunday in Omaha to face the Lancers at Liberty Credit Union Arena. Saturdays is a 6:05 p.m. start. Saturday will be a 4:05 p.m. start. And you can watch all of these games on Flow Hockey or listen along on Mixlr, which is the listening app for these games. Flow Hockey, same as Flow Baseball. If you had that account in the summer to listen to your Boomers or King County Cougars games, you can check out the hockey end of things there. All right, we should get into some Wolves news, and the Wolves don't play any preseason games, so it's a little bit lighter of a list here, but that's because the Wolves players mostly play with the Carolina Hurricanes in the preseason. During that camp, the team would split time between the Lenovo Center, which practices that are only open to the media, and then the Invisalign Arena at the Wake Competition Center in Morrisville, which those practices are open to the public. Then there was a whole schedule. I'm not going to run through it. I'm just going to go through the individual games that the Hurricanes played in this preseason. That was a Tuesday, September 24th victory, 2-1 over the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was in Tampa Bay. The Friday night game was in Carolina. That was against the Florida Panthers, the defending Stanley Cup champions. However, that was an 8-2 victory for the Hurricanes. But then they went to Florida and lost 5-2 in overtime. Nashville was their next opponent on Wednesday. That was at home. That was a 6-4 loss to the Predators. And then they had a game last night, but I don't have updated notes to see what they did against Tampa Bay. I guess I could check real quick. But if you wanted Wolves news, it's coming. Don't worry. It's on the way. You have a couple of former Wolves doing some great things with Carolina. If you're interested in keeping up with that, we're not going to break that all down here for you. But the Wolves kicked off their training camp in preparation for the 2024-25 American Hockey League season Tuesday in Hoffman Estates at the Tryfon Center. So I don't know if any of you are local here in Elgin, of course. Tryfon is just a couple of blocks away over in Hoffman Estates, and you can go check out Wolves practices. They should be open to the public. I would double check the schedule just in case, but it's always a great time when Wolves hockey is back underway.
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing that kind of surprises me, and maybe this is because you mentioned the split squad with the Carolina Hurricanes, where everyone seems to be, getting a shake because 23 players on each team, including the 2 goaltenders for each or whatnot. But is this, something exclusively that the Hurricanes do, in preparation for the season, where they do the split squads and they play different games? Because you said no games for the Wolves, no preseason games for the Wolves, I should say. But I mean, is this normal?
So, lesser known fact about me, I actually covered the Carolina Hurricanes for a time there. I don't see any split squad games in here, though, to be honest with you. I covered the Hurricanes in it maybe they may have wait, I know what you're talking about. Split practices.
Oh, okay. Practice. So I screwed that up again. I really need to get my Wheaties. Jeez Louise.
There have been split squad games in previous years. I was on Full Press Hurricanes. It's a podcast that is no more. And Full Press Hurricanes, we were able to cover the fact that they were playing split squad preseason games. So it's not unheard of, but it's not super common. These practices, though, like you'll have a game group and a non-game group practicing in the same day just before you've actually sent people down. Because in the preseason, you still want to have a lot of options for the games.
Sure.
But you don't necessarily want to go in with your actual NHL roster each night. So, little bit of different looks there. The Blackhawks have had some game and non-game practices in their training camp and preseason practice schedules as well. So they're going in with a slew of forwards. I'm not going to list them all here for you, but just know I did get that information from last night's game. That was a 2-1 overtime victory for the Hurricanes. Shane Gostisbehere with the overtime goal. It was Martin Necas, former Wolf, that had the assist on that overtime winner. And he also had the assist on the first goal, which was scored by Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And so they get the victory there. One other note I wanted to make, I was going through the coaching staff here, and I just wanted to give a shout out to CJ Reif. He is the son of late Blackhawks equipment manager Clint Reif. If you remember the story from 2015, the Blackhawks community and the hockey community lost Clint Reif. But his son is following in his dad's footsteps, and he is the assistant equipment manager for the Chicago Wolves now. So young kid, great to see, excited to see what this Wolves team does this year, especially with having him on their coaching staff. I was also incorrect. I don't know if I mentioned this last week. I was incorrect on the start of the regular season for the Bloomington Bison, which will be the ECHL affiliate of the Chicago Wolves. I was so excited that I may have some Nihil games, Northern Illinois Hockey League. That's where I left last week. Halfway through our show, I had to go and broadcast a couple of games out in Darien.
Didn't notice.
And so the Nihil schedule may be taking me down to Peoria next week. It's not confirmed yet, but if I was down in Peoria next Saturday, there is a Bloomington Bison game. It is a preseason game. I thought it was the regular season home opener, but it is a preseason game. Regardless, it's still hockey. If I'm down there, I'm still going to go. But October 12th is the first preseason game against the Indy Fuel. That is the Blackhawks ECHL affiliate. So they will feed the Rockford Icehogs. So this will be, if I do get a chance to go down, a 2-for-1 for me, because I'll be able to cover guys that are going to be maybe coming up, and we're going to be talking about them with the Rockford Icehogs that are currently in the ECHL with the Fuel, but also the ECHL affiliate, as I said, of the Wolves with the Bloomington Bison, and get to see some of those players. And it's going to be an interesting way that players are brought up and sent down in this organization in this Wolves, Hurricanes, Bison conglomerate, well, not conglomerate, but partnership here, because, with the recent remarriage of the Chicago Wolves and the Carolina Hurricanes, you still have a lot of loose ends, players that aren't necessarily signed by Carolina because they were independent last year, the Wolves were. And so it's going to be interesting to see if we get a chance to see some of those independent players go down to the ECHL, if we have some Carolina Hurricanes contracts playing down in Bloomington. So I'm interested to see how that all shakes out, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see it in person.
Pretty exciting that they actually have a minor league set up now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they've had an ECHL affiliate of some sort before. I actually need to do my research to see who that was. I'm sure if somebody said it in the comments, or if I heard something, it would jog my memory, but I'd need to go back and do my research before I give you any of that.
Oh, that's all right, Mike. You're having a hell of a much better show than I am. I feel like I need to point the thumb.
You're good.
I feel like I'm letting everyone here down at the AM 1410 WRMN family down by my lack of Wheaties, my lack of caffeine. I mean, holy hell.
Just remember, you have more Stanley Cups. This one right here, not the actual Stanley Cup. You have more Stanley Cups than the Minnesota Wild. And the Blackhawks are playing the Blues tonight. Okay, technically you have the same number of Stanley Cups as the St. Louis Blues, but I don't recognize 2019. I block it out in my memory. I don't like to remember that one.
So what you're saying is St. Louis still sucks?
Yes. Yeah.
Had to get it in there. I got my Detroit one in earlier. I got my St. Louis in now. I'm good to go. I am on the rise, baby.
I'm going to make sure you get that in every single week, no matter who the Blackhawks are playing, who we're talking about. There's going to be a Detroit sucks and a St. Louis sucks in
just
every
mention,
single show.
Because I didn't even mean it for it to come out. You just mentioned Detroit, and then all of a sudden it just sucks. I mean, it was like a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. It's like if somebody sneezes and you say, bless you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. The Saturday, October 12th date, of course, is the home opener for the Icehogs. Spoiler, it is also for the Wolves. Like I said, it is not for the Bloomington Bison. That is preseason. But Saturday, October 12th at the Allstate Arena, the Wolves will be taking on the Milwaukee Admirals at 7 p.m. That is also Adopt a Dog night. So get out there, see those little fluffy guys. It'll be great. That concludes all of my hockey notes for the week. I know there's a lot of them.
There are a lot. We did, it was a slog of hockey. But I think we're going to switch it up a little bit since we are in Elgin, since we do cover this area. I know it's a little early. We're 2 weeks out from it, but we are going to be moving on to Nightmare on Chicago Street.
So we're still in my ballpark here.
We are definitely in your ballpark, in your arena. So save the date, Elgin, South Elgin, all of the area around here. So on 10/19 of 2024, get your tickets now for Nightmare on Chicago Street. You might be asking yourself, what the hell is Nightmare on Chicago Street? Well, if you don't know, here we go. It is the festival. Festival? Thank you.
Yeah.
Holy hell. Can't even get that right. But anyway, it's a festival on Chicago Street. If you want to dress up,
encouraged.
Oh, it is definitely encouraged.
Yeah, dress up. There's going to be numerous stages with various different music genres, food, you name it. It's a fun time. I went to my first Nightmare on Chicago Street last year, played hooky from my own haunt for a little bit. I should mention that, we usually do run a home haunt. This year we're taking the year off, so we're going to get to enjoy Nightmare on Chicago Street in its entirety. I know there's usually an after party as well. It's just a great event. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, we're switching gears, but I love my H's. I love hockey, Halloween, haunting, and hot food. Yes.
You had me a little bit concerned when you started going down the H road. I'm happy with where you ended it up.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Nice filter.
Yeah.
And if you were to go to Nightmare on ChicagoStreet.com, on the very front page, you will see some spectacular drone footage. You will see the shape of the Chicago Street events.
The map, yeah.
The maps. I mean, the streets are packed. You've got stages of music. You've got face painting. You've got, look like the vehicle from Ghostbusters. The Ghostbuster mobile.
Svengoolie always makes an appearance.
With his chicken. Don't say,
yeah, so it'll be a great time regardless. Get out here. WRMN will be streaming during that event, both from studio, and then also I think they will have like a little bit of a man on the street type of deal. They used to have a table. I'm hearing that we may or may not have that this year, but definitely going to have a presence at this event. As it is the largest Elgin Halloween event, arguably, in this town. Of course, there is an event going on off of Big Timber Road, Camp Three Fires, I think is what it is. I'm not 100% sure on all the details there. For a while, it was one of those drive-through haunts. I haven't been there in a number of years, so I'm not sure all the details on that, but go check that out as well. Evil Intentions used to be here in Elgin, and then last night was supposed to be the opening night of Forsaken Hollow, which is a haunt destination, which will include Evil Intentions, the new location of the haunted house, as well as Monster Purge, which is you get on a giant suspended bus. They give you some paintballs, and you get to go and shoot zombies. People actually sign up to be zombies, and you get to go shoot them. That's kind of cool.
So when you say they actually get to shoot zombies, are you talking like
paintballs?
Paintballs,
yes. Yeah.
I don't know if
it still hurts.
Sign up. Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be a zombie.
Figured.
No, I wouldn't be a zombie. Put me on that bus. I wanna go pelt some zombies. But
I would much rather have the paintball gun than be the zombie.
They're going to have a lot more to offer in the future. It sounds like they have a whole 5 to 10 year plan with a haunted Airbnb, ghoulish mini golf, all this kind of stuff. I'm not sure what's opening in year one. And when I say I'm not sure, we were supposed to be there as a group, my group, last night for opening night. We pulled up dark.
Oh no.
They had a technical issue. They had to close down. Actually, Monster Purge was still running, but they asked us, are you here for the paintball experience or are you here for the haunted house? And we were there for the haunted house, and they said, oh, you got to come back. Luckily, it sounds like they are honoring our tickets for any other date that they are open this season. And then also, I think a VIP upgrade is what I'm hearing.
Okay.
But kind of disappointed, especially because there was no posts on social media about it at the time that we pulled up, and it wasn't like we were the first in line. We were there maybe halfway through the night, and there was no social media posts about what had happened. So we drove all the way out there.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And but don't get me wrong, I'm still wearing the T-shirt. I love my Evil Intentions, and I wish for good luck and good fortune as they try to recoup and open back up. They should open back up tonight. Instead, we went to Hell's Gate, of course. If anybody knows me, we went to Hell's Gate, and
that is a shocker.
We had so much fun in that line and in the house and behind the stage tour, and they always do a great job. And thank you for all the hospitality to the entire Hell's Gate group, Zombie Army Productions. I'd go through all the names, but we'd be here for another 5 hours. So
yeah, okay,
yeah.
Well, I just wanted to give out a shout out to Brendan. He is watching on the WRMN app on the Facebook Live page. Oh, geez, I did it again.
YouTube.
Shiatsu! YouTube. Holy shiatsu. I am so sorry. Yeah, I should. But Brendan, thanks for listening and watching us on YouTube Live. I appreciate it. A little bit more about Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Chicago Street. I did it again. Oh my God! Would you just
I got you.
Take me out, and shoot me and take me out to pasture? Anyway, it is on Saturday, October 19th. Yes,
with the zombie paintballs.
With the zombie paintballs. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. There will be no other shooting here
Yeah, no.
in that regards. No, that is not cool.
October 19th, 2024, though. We got this Nightmare on Chicago Street, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. I think last year was 6 to 10. So I think they're extending it this year.
So they're expanding it because it was such a success.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I had a friend that was doing a DJ set there last year. We didn't get a chance to see him, but I hope he's due up for it again this year. Actually, friend of Tilo, friend of the show, sure. And I'm interested to see if he's up on a stage again this year. And then, like I said, there's typically always an after party. So I mean, anything you can think of that is Halloween related or street carnival festival related, it's probably here, minus the rides. I don't think there's any actual I don't think there's a kids amusement park or anything. In fact, I believe,
and if I'm not mistaken, it's a 21 and older event.
Yes.
So I mean, and the event is presented by the Zombie Defense Initiative.
Nice.
And it promises experiences like no other. Prepare for an evening of pulse-pounding excitement with electrifying performances, immersive environments, apocalyptic themed drinks, delectable food options, and a soundtrack that will keep your heart racing.
And that's straight from the website, so that is exactly what they're looking forward to bringing you. We will also be bringing you some Bulls news on this show. Running out of time here a little bit, but Chicago Bulls training camp did begin this past Tuesday and will go through tomorrow. That is October 6th, 2024. We're going to run down a couple of notes here. The Bulls did sign guard Josh Primo. He's the ex-San Antonio Spurs lottery pick. He was signed to a training camp contract. He was the 12th overall pick in 2021. He is expected to join the Windy City Bulls to continue rehab to a stress fracture on his left ankle that he suffered near the end of last season, and he had to have surgery. And also, Zach LaVine could still be on the trade block, but of course, that is all speculation at this point. So we're not going to dive too deeply into that. So the NBA roster rules state that a team can have up to 15 players on their roster, plus 3 players on two-way contract. This gives the team a maximum of 18 players. In the offseason, the Bulls or any NBA team can have up to 21 players on the roster. And in the playoffs, teams can register 15 players. Of course, we're far away from that at this point. But that means the Bulls are going to have to cut down this training camp roster. So we'll start to see guys that are headed to the Windy City Bulls very shortly. And just to give you an idea, that'll be after this preseason, which begins on this coming Tuesday. So Blackhawks regular season starts this Tuesday. Bulls preseason starts this Tuesday. That'll be a matchup in Cleveland to take on the Cavaliers at 6 p.m., followed by a 7 p.m. home game against Memphis next Saturday night. So we'll be back on the air to kind of tell you all about that stuff and give you more basketball news going forward. We also have one more baseball note that we'll save for next week. But we got some fantasy football, Derek.
We do. We have Nick Johnston coming up live in the studio at the bottom of the hour. And then at the 10 o'clock hour, we've got Marcus Mack, the Mac Man, with the truth about Chicago sports. And you are currently listening to AM 1410 WRMN. I'm your host, Derek Geyer, alongside Mike Napolitano. In studio, Nick Johnson, Fantasy Sports. Next.
Imagine planting, tending, and raising your crops all season long, only to discover a micronutrient deficiency is robbing your yield potential. Once you spot signs of nutrient deficiencies, it can be difficult to bounce back. Get ahead of manganese, boron, and copper deficiencies with Moxin from CHS. Designed with a patented Levosol chelate, Moxin increases nutrient availability and provides your crops with the nutrition they need. Ask your local CHS retailer about the power of Moxin.
If you can't decide on dinner, have everything. Golden Corral at 154 South Gary Avenue in Bloomingdale has an endless buffet with over 150 items to choose from. There's an unmatched variety of food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, prepared fresh throughout the day. If you're craving something specific, call or check out their menu. Golden Corral rotates the buffet often. Golden Corral in Bloomingdale. They're the only one for everyone. Visit goldencorral.com.
For many years, Italian Pizza Kitchen in Roselle has been serving quality and excellence. Italian Pizza Kitchen is family-owned with experience in preparing authentic Italian cuisine with the freshest, highest quality ingredients since the 50s. Your food is always prepared fresh with the same traditions, recipes, and standards that they've perfected over the years. Italian Pizza Kitchen has a passion for great cuisine and customer service. Visit ItalianPizzaKitchen.com. La Flor Taco Grill at 910 Dundee Avenue at the corner of Slade and Elgin is under new management. Enjoy a huge selection of salads, quesadillas, tacos, burritos, and more. La Flor Taco Grill also has American cuisine favorites and breakfast. Bring the kids. There's a kids menu that they'll love. Are you planning a party this summer? La Flor also has catering with all types of both Mexican and American foods. Call 847-214-1306 or La Flor Taco Grill on Facebook.
Twin Zeros at 4870 North Harlem Avenue in Harwood Heights, Illinois. Check out the full menu at twinzeros.com. Twin Zeros Restaurant in Harwood Heights not only serves traditional gyros, but also has chicken gyro sandwiches. Twin Zeros also serves a variety of sandwiches ranging from cheeseburgers and Vienna beef hot dogs that have recently been inducted into the Vienna Beef Hot Dog Hall of Fame. Italian beef, Italian sausage, and combo sandwiches. To ethnic favorites such as Slovaki and Grecian chicken. Slovaki is shish kebabs, specifically chicken or pork shish kebabs, grilled to perfection, served on a warm pita with tomatoes, onions, and our homemade tzatziki sauce. You can also enjoy barbecue ribs served every day. Twins is open 7 days a week and also delivers locally. Located at 4870 North Harlem Avenue in Harwood Heights. Check out the full menu at twinzeros.com. That's twinzeros.com.
If you're not sure what to have for dinner, the Seven Dwarfs restaurant on the corner of Roosevelt and President in Wheaton has you covered. Their huge menu is sure to satisfy everyone. Enjoy the diner-styled atmosphere that's been serving up tasty food since the 50s. The Seven Dwarfs has lively decor and delicious entrees. They offer a hearty breakfast, plus 3 or 4 lunch specials daily. For dinner, it's all-you-can-eat fish on Fridays. And remember to try their barbecue ribs. Visit sevendwarfsrestaurant.com today.
There's a hidden gem in Elgin's South End. It harkens back to the days when going to a diner with family and friends was where everybody gathered for a delicious breakfast or lunch. Ray's Family Restaurant at 801 St. Charles Street in Elgin is a diner that you'll love with tasty food. The atmosphere and the staff are friendly and fast. They're open until 3 p.m. daily. You can never go wrong with Ray's. Visit raysfamilyrestaurant.com. That's raysfamilyrestaurant.com.
You're currently listening to On the Rise with Mike Napolitano and Derek Geyer on 1410 AM WRMN.
Welcome back into 1810. Oh, Jesus Christ. Holy hell, I am really having a hell of a day today. I am sorry.
Everybody gets one.
What?
Everybody gets one.
Everyone gets one. I feel like this is one of those unbelievable ones. I even tell my board op that we're going to be coming in with your intro, and I just jump all over it. But you are listening to AM 1410 WRMN. I am your host, Derek Geyer. Alongside me right now is Nick Johnston, and we are doing the Fantasy Sports Half Hour.
Fantasy guru, Nick Johnston.
fantasy guru. I got the hardware to prove it right here. A little bit of bling bling. Got to be a leader of men. You got to get a bunch of guys from a bunch of different teams, get them all on the same page, and then all for the same glory. Exactly. Being your fantasy championship winner. That's the whole point of it. Making me sound pretty good with my Bryce Young take on there.
Paging fantasy doctor Nick Johnston.
I'll play a little bit of doctor. We'll talk a little injury report. Let me put my doctor's cap on, my scrubs.
Yeah, so we didn't really have anything going back to last week because I could not pull sound from, unfortunately, the truth about Chicago sports and your non-nickname Nick. But anyway, I'll figure. What is your nickname, Nick?
No gimmicks, Nick Johnston.
No gimmicks, Nick Johnston. Well, that would have played nicely into that intro, but unfortunately wasn't able to get it. And the question that I always ask you. How the hell are you doing on this fine Saturday morning, Nick?
I'm doing fine. Ready to roll. Wide awake. Ready for some football. Ready to talk some injury. Ready to talk bye weeks. We got a couple of great matchups on the week. But yeah, it's fantastic. I'm ready to roll.
You're ready to roll. I'm ready to get the hell out of here because I feel like if I was grading myself on today's performance, I would give myself a freaking F. That is how well I am doing. No, not really. I mean, I was able to, I friend from out of town in. Okay, no problem. I'm going to get into bed by like 10 o'clock, 11. I was going over show notes. Fine. In bed by 12, up by 6, no problems. And now all of a sudden, my brain does not know what my mouth is about to say, and I just can't help it. I'm sorry, Mike Napolitano, that is running the board right now.
Don't lie to us, Derek. You were out till 5 a.m. raging.
I wish that were the case.
Sounds like you got the yips.
I do have the yips, and I just wish it was one of those things that I was able to pull an all-nighter.
That's all right.
But that is not the case. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sonar. I'm sorry, Matt McNeil. I'm sorry for everyone that had joined this production this morning because I feel like I am shiatsuing the bed.
Well, take a breather. One.
Oh my God!
There you go. And then, like all good ones, like anything, and when it comes to fantasy or just football in general, you take a step back, you watch the tape, you get some notes on yourself, like, hey, maybe I got to sit up straight or something like that. I gotta watch my posture. Maybe I'm leaning in a little bit too much. You know, that's how the baseball guys do it. So it's all right. Everyone gets a day. Everyone gets a day.
Thanks, Coach Nick Johnston. I appreciate it.
There you go. That's all. That's what I'm here for. Here to coach you. Here to coach you guys on your fantasy squads. Make sure you guys are nice and calm, ready to go, because it's bye weeks. You got a couple right here.
Right. So what do we got?
So like I said at the beginning, no Chargers, no Detroit Lions, no Philadelphia Eagles this week, and no Titans. So like I said, make sure you're planning accordingly. A couple of big guys there, like no Jahmyr Gibbs, no David Montgomery. So running backs might be a little slim. A lot of injuries. So be mindful of that. No surprise here. I can kind of just start with that. I got a little sleeper, little injury report to go to before we kind of just roll through the games.
Dr. Nick.
Yeah. So I'll start with the running back position. Looks like Brian Robinson Jr. is a little banged up, but here comes Austin Eckler off of concussion protocol. So just in case Brian Robinson Jr. isn't the way to go, Austin Eckler, former first-round pick for most people a couple years ago, would be a viable option coming out of the backfield for a very high-scoring Washington Commanders, the offense led by Jaden Daniels, who, again, is also a viable option to start.
Very big surprise in the first 4 or 5 weeks going forward with the Commanders.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Big time.
It's Cliff Kingsbury and the offense they're rolling right there on that side of things. It's a lot of fun right now. And then, again, a guy like Terry McLaurin can go ahead and wake up at any point in time right now, which is also, there's reports of Devontae Adams getting traded. That's also a big thing right now. Obviously, the Jets, the Saints are his top reported, but of course, there's little inklings of the Commanders could get in. The Baltimore Ravens can get in there, as well as the Chiefs. And, the rich get richer if the Chiefs go ahead and make the move for Devontae Adams. But personally, a guy that has Devontae Adams on a team, I wouldn't mind. I would not mind.
No, of course not, because all of a sudden, Devontae Adams becomes the number one target for probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Mahomes.
Yep, that's my thinking.
Excuse me. And if I'm not mistaken, right now, the floor to get Devontae Adams would be starting at a second-round pick.
Yeah.
So with that being said, hey, come on, give me your second-round pick.
That's the only thing that's pushing it back from the Chiefs probably getting him is interdivision rivalry. That's the only thing right there between the Raiders and the Chiefs right there. So it might tax them a little bit more because they're the Chiefs. But again, the right price, anything that comes up right there, that should be the move right there for the Raiders.
3 Super Bowls in 4 years. And being in the same division. So probably not a good spot for him to land there in Kansas City.
Yeah, and of course, as we know, Davante Adams is out this week, not because of the trade talk, but because of his hamstring. Again, the hamstring is, you guys got to get in there and stretch. It is what it is. But a guy like Trey Tucker might actually be a viable option this week. These past 2 weeks without Davante Adams, he's had 22.6 and 15.4 in a PPR league. So becoming a viable option right there. Of course, Jacoby Myers is not probably the number one, but the number one pass catcher there is Brock Bowers still, in my opinion. So he's still a solid start. Also, speaking of the Raiders, back to the running back position, Alexander Madison might be a good little slip in maybe for the flex spot. Again, no Zamir White on the week. And, running backs are just running thin right now. I'm in an 8-man league. I'm still Samaje Perine is like my best available running back in that league. So it's really wearing thin down there. So you got to be on top of your waiver wire moves and just free agency in general because, something like Jonathan Taylor pops up. Jonathan Taylor, a mid-ankle sprain, mild ankle sprain, excuse me. He will be out this week, maybe out for couple more weeks. He'll be week to week most likely. So a guy like Trey Sermon is going to be the replacement, former running back for the 49ers. He found the end zone one time. That was only against the Bears. So not a huge track record as opposed to like, what is it? Oh, this is going to be a for sure start. He's going to get the workload, and the Colts they tend to run a little bit. So
and it seems like the workload going away from the quarterbacks is actually getting put back on the running back this year.
Yeah.
Average yardage seems to be only around 202 yards through the air to 220 for the first 4 weeks. So to me, this means that the defenses and the teams are actually gearing things a little bit more towards the pass now.
Yeah.
So running backs are actually making a comeback.
Yeah, 100%. And especially now, you just saw on Thursday a 36-30 final where maybe offenses are trying to figure it out.
That was
I think
a
they
hell
finally
of a game.
figured it out. It was a fantastic game. Again, Darnell Mooney had a solid game. Drake London. He could have even had a bigger game. He had a huge drop towards the end. That would have been a clutch play. But I mean, Kirk Cousins was for sure the guy to watch there. He had 500 passing yards.
500 passing yards. What was it? 4 or 5 touchdowns?
At least 3 for sure. I know 1 to Drake London and 2 to Darnell Mooney. So I think for sure 3.
And I mean, for me,
and then of course the game winner to Hodgins.
The game winner. So
therefore,
I mean, I still can't believe that Mooney is becoming such a big threat as far as the wide receiver positions concerned, especially at PPR, and then snagging those 2 touchdowns last week or this past Thursday. Kirk Cousins with the. How do we know he's going to be playing? Is he going to be playing any good coming off the Achilles injury? Well, holy shiatsu, he's doing a phenomenal job in leading the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, 60 dropbacks on Thursday.
Yeah.
He was coming out to sling it. And I mean, it's that time where, 4 weeks have passed. That's about, the length of the preseason. So now offenses again starting to figure it out. You might be looking at some higher scoring games. Just maybe within this week, just maybe a couple weeks from now. So that should be, I don't know, as a fantasy owner, that you love hearing that. Touchdowns. But it wasn't so much for Bijan Robinson, who I believe is actually a little banged up. He only got 12 carries on Thursday. So be mindful of that. That isn't really a matter of like, oh, no, here comes Tyler Algier. No, I think it's just Bijan Robinson might be a little banged up more than the Atlanta Falcons are letting us know. Of course, that's just how the NFL rolls.
Yeah, I do have a question because the Chicago Bears are playing the Carolina Panthers this week. And I think where I want to go with this. How do you think Caleb Williams is going to do against, a very lackluster Carolina defense?
Yeah, I would think that again, this is still workable for DJ Moore to get in there and get a couple more targets. I think he's going to be definitely the go-to guy, especially when Keenan Allen, while he will play, always at the back end, he's like, all right, plantar fasciitis is going to play a role.
Yes.
It's going to bug him all season long.
Probably throughout the rest of his life.
Yes, absolutely. So while it is unfortunate, he's going to be out there. I wouldn't say decoy, but he's going to get a couple receptions. I don't think he's in there for the big game. Cole Kmet's a viable option. DeAndre Swift woke up last week, had a great game.
Finally started running north and south instead of east and west. Finally started, actually paying attention to where his blockers were. The offensive line seemed to get a little bit better for the Bears. But, that was definitely a huge improvement because Swift had close to, 200 yards in total offense?
Yeah, they got about 160 in total, 7 for 72 on the receptions. Okay. Again, in a PPR, and he had a huge 40-yard run for a touchdown. So a great game for DeAndre Swift. And of course, when your running back gets going for a rookie quarterback that's not necessarily struggling, but just still getting his feet wet, and you like how this role is going so far. DeAndre Swift would be a huge help if he can get going against the Carolina Panthers. And honestly, on the other side of the ball, not the worst options either. Deontay Johnson has woke up because of Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton and their connection right there has been fantastic. Back-to-back revenge games for Andy Dalton, if anyone wants to pay attention there, if you need to stream a quarterback, I suppose. But, of course, the Bears' defense is tough. Still tough.
Yeah, it is. And the worry that I have there as far as the running back goes for Carolina is the fact that the Bears' front four have been getting gashed.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard past 2 weeks has recorded over 100 yards on the ground, so this is going to be not a pushover for the Bears. They need to pay attention. They need to lock in. This isn't the Carolina Panthers of last year. Honestly, no. It is a big step up with just one position being moved with Andy Dalton in there.
Yeah, and considering the fact that they are a rebuilding team, obviously. I don't think anyone really predicts that the Carolina Panthers are going to win this game, but they do have viable options in whether it be the Red Rocket or Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah. Again, just Bears, if somehow, some way, if you're listening, do not sleep on the Panthers. This is not a game for that. This is not a get right game. This is just you got to keep doing the right things right here.
Yeah. And you need to nail the Panthers carcass to the wall.
Yes, 100%. This should be something for Caleb Williams to get involved and get going. I would think, to a certain extent, like I said, all the guys on the Bears are going to be playable options. Cole Kmet again, and with tight ends being what they are, he's still a fine option. Yeah. Quickly before we just jump into games, I'll go into wide receiver and tight end, just like sleeper and quickly some injury report stuff. Dontavian Wicks has been the talk of the town as of late, just in terms of who should be the wide receiver ad on the waiver wire. It was Dontavian for the sole reason of 13 targets last week. He has Jordan Love now, and with him back on the forefront for the Packers, that they could be averaging the most points on the offensive side of the ball. It's possible. So having a target in that Green Bay Packers offense is fine. Of course, Jaden Reed most likely not available. Dontavian Wicks, after this past waiver wire transitions, might not still be there, but if he is, snag him, because Romeo Doubs is day to day with some personal issues, I believe. Be able to keep an eye out on that one as well. No Malik Neighbors in New York, so Wan'Dale Robinson will most likely be the number one target there for Daniel Jones and company. And then also no Khalil Shakir. So here comes maybe a breakout game for Keon Coleman in the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen needs to throw to somebody. So I think obviously besides Dalton Kincaid, you'll see maybe an uptick in Keon Coleman targets. I would think so. So I think that's one final thing. I got Joshua Downs, and that's if and only if Anthony Richardson does not go, because we saw last week Joe Flacco was just peppering him with targets. He ended up getting a score as well. So Joshua Downs for the Indianapolis Colts, if and only if Joe Flacco is the go.
Who would be some of the surprise picks for you, since this is a bye week?
Ooh, picks as in just team-wise?
Team-wise and or player-wise. I mean, you got the waiver wire. Who are some of the guys that you would really consider looking hard at on the waiver wire?
Again, just these replacement guys. They might be here for a little bit longer.
Take them from like a week to week.
Yeah. So again, like if you see Trey Sermon and you're not so certain on Jonathan Taylor, even if you have Jonathan Taylor, might want to cuff him right there just in case it is a lengthy ankle injury. So Trey Sermon would be a guy to go to. Also Cam Akers, because Joe Mixon is out. So gotcha. Cam Akers. He's been playing these last 3 weeks. This will be the third week now without Joe Mixon. Cam Akers might be the role, but that down there, it's also been kind of by committee because we saw the game winner was to Dare Ogunbowale. My apologies to the Ogunbowale family if I pronounced that incorrectly. But those couple of names right there, like I said, and then the big one, right, for sure, if you haven't already, Dontavian Wicks would be the go-to.
Okay. How do you feel about Lamar Jackson going up against Cincinnati?
Ooh, this is one of my favorite matchups on the week. A divisional matchup right here, Baltimore and Cincinnati. Joe Burrow already said this is a huge game for them, so they're going to be locked in. But Lamar Jackson, it's been a different role. It's been a different season almost for him right now, where he's throwing the ball a little bit better. He's still scrambling like he is and getting the rushing yards, but it is very interesting the way that the Ravens have been running their offenses because they almost have two different offenses. I see that when they're handing it to Derrick Henry, they're able to run the ball. There you go. That's the power rush that they have.
Right.
If they're stopping the run, they can still open it up and get it to Zay Flowers, or if he wants to show up, Mark Andrews, or maybe Isaiah Likely. So pretty solid stuff right there. Actually, I don't know if you saw Monday night. Jared Goff caught a touchdown.
Yes.
He has now have more receiving touchdowns than Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce. Basically, insert whatever big name wide receiver or tight end he has now more. Garrett Wilson, I don't think he does not have it. Oh no, I think he's got one. He's got one touchdown in the week.
Okay, now with that being said, and since I'm such a fantasy newbie or not really up
just
to
a novice, you're getting back into it.
Yeah, novice. Thank you for being kind. I appreciate that, Nick.
I'm just trying to show off that I know words.
Oh, okay. Well, clearly I don't know shiatsu today because I'm just all over the board. But going with that, he receives a passing touchdown. Does that actually count as a reception and a touchdown?
Yes.
And like all the other counting stats?
He gets the yardage, he gets the touchdown, he gets the reception if you are in a PPR league, and the person that threw it to him, Amon-Ra St. Brown, gets the passing yards, gets the touchdown.
Okay, so it's like a whole double dip going back.
So it was a Philly special into basically a Motown special, with being that they were in Detroit for it. So
okay. Well,
it was a very exciting play, to be honest.
That had to be a hell of a thing for everyone that had those players involved, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
Now another QB that I wanted to kind of get some info on would be Josh Allen. Josh Allen obviously plays for the Bills. He's going up against Houston and the Texans, and some of the fantasy leagues or these guys at Fantasy Pros, they have them as the number 2 option for this week as far as the QB position. How do you feel about that?
I like that. Obviously, down Khalil Shakir, their defense is really banged up, so that might play a little bit into the fact that Josh Allen might be having to throw a lot more than other past weeks. He's been amazing. He's Josh Allen. Excuse me. I think only 2 times this year has he really underperformed, but that was only because the game script, basically he didn't need to go. He didn't need to ball out. They were up 30 points against the Jaguars.
Right.
But just he's going to fall into his own. I think again by committee, maybe get Keon Coleman going, maybe a little bit more to Dalton Schultz, or to Dalton Kincaid. But this might be a game for James Cook to obviously get going, get back in his role. Okay. This should be solid. I mean, this would again be one of the better matchups. I'm gonna lean Houston if I'm gonna be making a pick or make some gambling decisions. Of course, 1-800 Gambler. But that's always the case there. I like Houston this week for the defensive. Like I said, the defensive missing people on the Buffalo Bills side of things. It should be nice for the Houston Texans. And again, revenge game. Stephon Diggs against the Buffalo Bills. Hopefully, he has a big one because he's on my squad. He's on my squad.
Gotcha. Any other upticks or surprises for the QB position?
I am not opposed to starting and just handing the keys over to Justin Fields at this point.
Okay.
I think he's a viable option in fantasy. The rushing upside is always there. He's just not. He's not making mistakes. It's as simple as that. Again, it does for me.
Except maybe last week.
Yeah, no, to a certain extent. No, it wasn't really even him. I would put it on the defense again. Just
okay.
Yeah. Of course, in my mind, he didn't make a mistake. He didn't turn the ball over. So that's what I mean. Could he have made a better decision? Could he made a better pass for another first down instead? I'm sure. But getting 3 total touchdowns, having almost 300 plus yardage just on the day, that's a fine stat line for me. So I actually don't mind him against Dallas on Sunday night. They're going to be in Pittsburgh. The terrible towels will be flying around. And again, just the idea that this was also another team that people were considering for Devontae. So it'd be pretty crazy if Justin Fields found his way to just sneaking in and getting Devontae Adams to go along with him and George Pickens.
Yeah, and it really seems it's a tale of two teams as far as the Dallas Cowboys are concerned this year. They show up one week, they get obliterated the next. Their defense is awesome, and then all of a sudden, it's porous, as Marcus Mack would like to say on the Truth About Chicago Sports.
Yeah, stick around for that.
And then the offense doesn't click, so it's really interesting because Pittsburgh's D is going to be there. The wild card, as in my opinion, is Justin Fields, but he seems to be getting this offensive motor going for the Steelers.
Very much acclimated to this offense.
And anyone was going to save right by him.
Yeah, if anyone was going to save him, Mike Tomlin was going to be the guy.
Yeah, and he even came out and said in the offseason that he was a huge fan. So, kind of made sense to get him there.
Oh, 100%.
What do we got as far as tight ends or flex?
Actually, I don't mind Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers this week. Again, just the idea that if a little bit less options, if it's no Romeo Doubs, if it's just Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft could get involved. Also look out for Evan Ingram, questionable. But he was actually coming back from his hamstring. He's been logging in some limited practices. But if he's able to go in a short stint where tight ends are a must, and you don't have no Philadelphia, so no Dallas Goedert this week. Huge news. Actually, T.J. Hawkinson of the Vikings, T.J. Hawkinson of the Vikings being back involved. So that'll be good for the tight end position. They need somebody. They need something going on.
Sounds good. Well, Nick, I appreciate you being in studio as always.
Thank you, as always.
Helping out on the board this fine morning. Also, Matt McNeil for helping you run the board. Man, I think I just did a double redundancy there. But anyway, thank you to my co-host, Mike Napolitano, putting up with my shiatsu this fine Saturday morning.
You were fine.
And also, as always, Dennis Sonar Green, our program director. Up next, as I said, is The Truth About Chicago Sports with Marcus Mack. You are currently listening to AM 1410 WRMN. Have a fan-freaking-tastic rest of your Saturday morning and afternoon and weekend. We are out. Enjoy, y'all.